Welcome into ESPN Headlines. I'm Cassidy Hubbard alongside NFL analyst Mark Schlereth, and we have a headline on the NFL for you. In Indianapolis, Colts running back Trent Richardson speaking out extensively for the first time about being benched in Week 13, saying it was very humbling and that he needs to step up, basically taking the blame for being benched as he should. But what do you think has been the biggest issue for Trent with the Colts so far?
Well, I mean, obviously it's always tough coming into a situation where you're new, where you've got to learn an offense. That's always a difficult transition. I think also you've got to couple that with the fact that they lost Reggie Wayne to an ACL, so you lost your number one wide receiver and the most potent weapon you have on that offense to an ACL injury, so there was a transition there as well. But the bottom line with the Indianapolis Colts, when you watch them play and when you break down their film, their offensive line has struggled consistently through this year. They've only had a couple of games where I thought they played really well. For the most part, they've been horrific. Last week they were terrible once again. Andrew Luck has been under duress. And anytime you have that kind of situation, it's very difficult to establish a running game when people are missing blocks and you're not controlling the line of scrimmage. So I think you look at all those things together, and I think that's the biggest issue with Trent Richardson. I'm glad he takes ownership for it, but not all of it is his fault for sure.
I mean, it came from the Browns. Are the Browns a better system for Trent as a running back?
Well, I don't know about system, but they had better players up front. There's no question about that. That offensive line for the Browns is actually a very good offensive line. Their problem, obviously, the quarterback. It's almost exactly the opposite of what's going on in Indianapolis, where they have a really good quarterback, but they didn't have that offensive line protecting him. So the Browns have a very good offensive line. They just had quarterback issues. So I just think they're better up front in Cleveland than they are in Indianapolis, and that's a big problem for him.
Do you think the Colts regret the trade now?
I don't think they regret the trade. I think they look at themselves and say we have to get better in these areas to make this offense work. And they're an offense in transition as well. You know, they hired a new offensive coordinator in Pep Hamilton, who came over from Stanford. So they're putting in and implementing a new offense with a fullback and those type of things too. So some of that just takes time. And unfortunately, when you lose your number one wide receiver and you've got guys that are kind of mismatched and hodgepodge up front, it's going to take time to develop, and that's where they are right now.
Well, the Colts, they lead the AFC South, 3 games up on Tennessee with 4 games to go. How much faith do you have in this Colts team heading forward?
None. I mean, they'll win that division. They'll win that division outright because everybody else in that division is so bad. But the bottom line, when they get in the playoffs and watch them this weekend against the Cincinnati Bengals, when they play them, they will get dominated up front. Andrew Luck, he makes up for a multitude of sins. He's the reason they win a lot of games. If not for him, they would be, 500 or lower right now. So he makes up for all those problems. But when you get into playoff football against good teams, I think you'll get exposed.
Oh, right now they are 8-4, and as you mentioned, they take on the Bengals on Sunday. For Mark, I'm Cassidy. This has been your ESPN Headline.